If you are a fan of science fiction, you probably know and love Star Trek. It is one of the most amazing and influential franchises of all time. It has given us many adventures and stories of Captain Kirk and his crew on the Starship Enterprise, as well as many other characters and spin-offs. But Star Trek is not just about spaceships and aliens, it is also about the human condition and the values that we share. That is why fans of Star Trek love to repeat their favorite quotes from the movies and episodes. These quotes are not only funny and memorable, but also deep and meaningful. They reflect the vision of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, who wanted to show us a better future. So in this video, we will show you the best Star Trek quotes that can best describe the franchise. You don't want to miss this. I dare you to do better. Captain Pike's bold dare in Star Trek. So get ready as we dive into the iconic scene from Star Trek, where Captain Christopher Pike, brilliantly portrayed by Bruce Greenwood, delivers a bold dare that sets the tone for the entire movie. In this scene, Pike attempts to recruit a somewhat dispirited James T. Kirk, played by the talented Chris Pine, into Starfleet. But instead of using conventional persuasion, Pike takes a daring approach. He reminds Kirk of his own father's heroic sacrifice, igniting a spark of courage within him. It is a moment that beautifully captures the essence of the Trek franchise, challenging both the characters and the audience to live up to the legacy and ideals of the series. Pike's words serve as a rallying cry, daring the movie and its characters to soar to new heights. You won't believe the power of this pivotal scene, as it sets the stage for an epic adventure, so buckle up as you don't want to miss this next best quote. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. If you're a fan of sci-fi movies, well, you probably know Star Trek First Contact. It's the best movie ever made with the Next Generation crew. And you know who is the star of the show? Patrick Stewart as Captain Picard. He is so awesome, he can just make you cry with his words. But do you know what he said to Lily, a woman from the 21st century, when she asked him what he does for a living? He said something that will blow your mind. He said, "We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity." Wow, right? He was talking about the 24th century, where people don't care about money or power. They care about learning, exploring, and helping others. They live in a world where Star Trek is not just a movie, but a reality. Spock, you want to know something? Everybody's human. In 1991, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country came out, marking the 25th anniversary of the franchise. It was also the final film for Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the gang. The movie was full of action and suspense, but it also had some heartfelt moments. One of them was when Kirk and Spock had a chat in Spock's cabin. Spock was feeling old and useless, but Kirk told him that he was still human. Spock was offended by that since he was half Vulcan, but Kirk meant it as a compliment because he valued humanity and diversity. And that's what Star Trek is all about, exploring the galaxy and celebrating life. And that is why we love it so much, so keep watching to find out more. We are searching, not just for answers to our questions, but for new questions. The first episode, Emissary, came out in 1993. It introduced us to Commander Benjamin Sisko, who had to deal with some weird aliens called the Prophets. They lived in a wormhole and didn't understand time. Sisko tried to teach them about questions and answers. He also learned something about himself and Starfleet. He realized that Starfleet was not just looking for answers, but for new questions. That is what made them curious and adventurous. And that's what Star Trek is all about, searching the galaxy and learning new things. Let's make sure history never forgets the name Enterprise. What if you woke up one day and found yourself in a different reality? That's what happened to Captain Picard and his crew in yesterday's Enterprise, a classic episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. You don't want to miss this. In this reality, the Federation was at war with the Klingons for decades. The Enterprise D is a warship, not a vessel of exploration. Picard has to make a tough decision: fight to the death or change history. He chooses to honor the name of the Enterprise, a symbol of hope and courage for all Star Trek fans. The Enterprise is more than just a ship, it's a character, and Picard makes sure history never forgets it. You'll be surprised what happened, so keep watching. Life must be worn gloriously. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is a great show for Trekkies and newbies alike. It goes back to the roots of Star Trek, exploring moral dilemmas and human values in each episode. Captain Christopher Pike is the star of the show, a brave and noble leader who faces a tough decision. Pike knows that he will suffer a terrible fate in the future, but he doesn't let that stop him from doing his duty. He tries to stop a war on a planet that doesn't know any better. He tells them that life is precious and should be cherished, not wasted. Pike's Choice is a powerful and inspiring story that shows us what it means to be a Star Trek hero. Life must be worn gloriously, as Pike says, so keep watching. Risk is our business. Back in the 1960s, when people were racing to the moon, space was a scary place. Many things could go wrong, and some did. But Star Trek showed us that space was also a place of wonder and adventure. Keep watching to find out how. In one episode called Return to Tomorrow, Captain Kirk gives a speech to his crew. He tells them that they are on the Enterprise because they are willing to take risks. He says that risk is their business and that it is essential for progress. You won't believe what he does next. He then volunteers to let an alien possess his body in order to help the alien civilization survive. He trusts that his crew will do the same and that they will learn something new from the experience. He shows us that risk is not only a challenge, but also an opportunity. And you'll be surprised what happened. That's how Star Trek inspired us to be bold and brave in the face of the unknown. It taught us that risk is our business and that it can lead us to amazing discoveries. That is the Star Trek ethos. A starship also runs on loyalty. We'll take a look at one of the most memorable episodes of Star Trek the original series, The Ultimate Computer, so you don't want to miss this. This episode shows us the power of friendship among the crew of the Enterprise. Kirk, Spock, and others are always ready to sacrifice for each other. They are more than just co-workers, they are family. But what happens when a supercomputer threatens to replace them? Starfleet decides to test a new device that can run the ship by itself. Spock is impressed by the computer's logic, but Kirk feels useless. He wonders if he still has a role to play as a captain. Spock then tells Kirk something that will make you tear up. He says that a starship also runs on loyalty, and that no computer can replace the human factor. He reminds Kirk that he is still needed and respected by his crew. This episode is a heartwarming tribute to the bond between Kirk and Spock and the rest of our Enterprise crew. It also raises some interesting questions about the role of technology in our lives. You're not going to believe what happened. Of all the souls I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human. Spock was Kirk's best friend and half-human, half-Vulcan officer. He was always logical and cool, but he also had a heart of gold. So keep watching. Spock gave up his life to save the Enterprise and its crew from a deadly explosion. He went into a radioactive chamber and fixed the engine, but he was fatally poisoned. Kirk rushed to see him, but they could only talk through a glass wall. Spock told Kirk that he was proud to be his friend and that he loved him. Kirk was in tears and said that Spock was the most human person he ever met. Of all the souls I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human. The scene shows us that Spock was not just a cold and logical alien, but a hero and a friend who valued life and friendship more than anything. It also shows us that Star Trek is not just about space battles and aliens, but about hope and humanity. Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Now let's see how Spock said the most powerful and memorable words in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. You don't want to miss this. Spock was a cool guy, half human, half Vulcan. He was very good at logic and science, but he also cared about his friends. He was the best buddy of Kirk, the leader of the Enterprise. Kirk was pretty brave and fun. So when the Enterprise was in trouble, Spock did something amazing and heroic. He went to fix the engine by himself, even though it was indeed very dangerous. He knew he would not survive, but he did it anyway. He said he did it because the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Kirk was sad when he saw Spock dying. He said that Spock was his friend and that he loved him. He also said that Spock's words were the most important thing in Star Trek. They showed us how to be good and loyal. The scene is honestly one of the best in Star Trek history. It makes us cry and think. It also makes us laugh when Spock says, "I have been and always shall be your friend." Nice one, Spock.